any questions during the show, please call 781-837-4900. We'd love to talk real estate. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you like to listen to podcasts at Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you would like a one-on-one consultation with me and my team to discuss your real estate needs, you can connect with me at bostonconnect.com or 781-826-8000. Now, sit back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate.
And hello to all my South Shore neighbors. You are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. My name is Melissa Wallace, and I have two beautiful women sitting across from me smiling at me as soon as I started talking. But I will let everybody know that one of those women is not Sharon. She is preparing for our new construction development in Hanson, so she's got the day off from the show. She's hard at work over there with new construction. Maybe she'll call in later and she'll give a little sneak peek, but I am joined by, again, two beautiful women smiling at me right now. And one of them is Kate Fisher, who is a full-time realtor here at Boston Connect Real Estate. Hello, Kate.
Good morning.
Good morning. And the other one, which I feel like a lot socially, like in like social environments, like within real estate, but Jessica Fennessy from Sherman Law. Hello.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for joining me. So Amy, who is in your office as well, has joined our show a few times over the years, and so all of our listeners know her, but I will give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourselves. Kate, you've done the show once before with Sharon, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you the opportunity to reintroduce yourselves to all of our listeners, where you service, how long you've been in the business, anything that you think that they should know about you.
Sure. So I'm Kate Fisher. I've been in the business for 11 years. This year is my 4th year fully full-time, which has been great, and I'm loving it. I live here, well, we're in Pembroke right now, but I was raised in Hanson. I am raising my family in Hanson. This year I'm PTO president of Hanson, so that's a fun new endeavor. It's actually been really interesting, and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
I also serve on our board for South Shore Realtors Association, which is our local board, which oversees all the realtors in our area and their ethical fiduciary everything.
And they're located in Pembroke too, so very convenient for you.
Today we're actually hosting a food drive at the Hanson Shaws from 10 to 2, so if anybody is out and about and wants to drop some things off for Hanson Food Pantry, again, we'll be there from 10 to 2 at the Hanson Shaws. And I think that's really...
Is that through South Shore Realtors, or is that through their Hanson PTO?
We host a food drive for South Shore Realtors, well, with social realtors, and one town per month.
Oh, nice.
We try to do at least one. Mm-hmm. And we do them all over the South Shore, just trying to, like, replenish the shelves of each of the food pantries locally. So it's a really great experience and eye-opening, if you will. And it's going to rain all day, so I have all the layers, and I have all of the...
Are you going to be on the little, like, covered part, or are you in the parking lot?
No, we'll be on the covered part, thankfully. But everyone's like, are we still doing it? Like, as long as we're not soaked.
Do people still need food? Then yes, we're still doing it.
Yes, exactly. No, it's really cool, actually. Like, people will walk up, and they have their cart, and you think they're going to hand you, like, 2 things, and they're like, no, this is for you. And they give you, like, the whole cart for the pantry, and it's awesome.
That's amazing.
So I may not be looking forward to the rain and the cold, but I am looking forward to the feeling.
The feeling, I feel like you're always doing something, and always doing something to give back.
I try.
And I hope it comes back to you as well.
Yeah. You saying that, we actually, this Friday at Boston Connect, right here in Pembroke, we are hosting, Emmy and I, a blood drive for Boston Children's Hospital, and that is from 9 to 3, and we still have quite a few spots.
Yeah, I am donating. I think I'm like super early. I want to get it out of the way in the morning. I don't have a problem with donating blood, and I did it the last time you guys had him here. But I'm just like, I gotta get it out of my head.
Yeah, and not sit in your office.
Not sit in my office. Yeah, because I have the corner office here, and I'm upstairs, and I'm like, I got a bird's eye view of everything going outside, and so I will be seeing people going in and out of that thing all day, and I'll be like, no, I gotta get it done in the morning, or else I'll freak out. But I'm going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. So this is your first time on our show, Jessica. Why don't you introduce yourselves to all of our listeners, what you do for a living, areas you service, anything that you think our listeners should know about you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So my name is Jessica Fennessy from Sherman Law. So I'm a real estate attorney on the South Shore. So we have our main office in Hingham, and I run our office in Plymouth. So as a practicing attorney for 15 years now in real estate law, I've sort of seen all of it. And I'm looking forward to chatting about with all of you. Where do I live? I live in Kingston right now with my 2 sons and my husband. I've been there for about 12 years, formerly from Rockland, which is where I grew up and where my parents still are. I met my husband in high school. High school sweethearts, still together.
Look at us, we're like gushing.
Went to South Shore Vocational Technical High School, took automotive, which is a fun class to help me.
Oh, wow.
And sort of went from there to college, to law school, and here I am now.
Yeah.
So doing what I love and you know, supporting my family with it and sharing all.
Yeah.
It's like a hobby and a career in one.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. It would be a very intense hobby if it was just fun. You're like always engaged in real estate. But have you okay? So you were in automotive.
I was, yes.
So what made you make the switch to law?
It was a huge jump. So in high school, learning automotive, it was sort of like, why'd you pick that?
Yeah.
Well, cosmetology was full, and you know.
Hey, we're just keeping it real here.
Right? I mean, boys liked cars, and I liked boys, so it fit together.
This is perfect. I love this
opportunity.
I love this story.
So it was an efficient use of time. So honestly, I grew up with a father that was very active. Always tinkering with something, mechanical. So I sort of definitely grew up with that in my life. So it was something I knew a little bit about.
You know what? I've always sort of wanted that skill of like knowing what's going on with automotive, because I'll be honest, I'm a single girl, but if I talk to a guy and they know about like cars and stuff, I'm always like, oh, could you teach me? And they're like, no, I'll do it for you. And I'm like, no, I want to learn. I don't need you to do anything for me. I want to learn. And I'm still single, so. Okay.
It's time to learn how to change.
Yeah. Maybe I should let somebody do something for me. Okay, so Kate.
Yeah.
I don't even really remember how it got brought up. I think we were talking at a roundtable or a debrief or something, and we were talking about filling our schedule here, because we are live every Tuesday night from 6:15 to 7, and hello, we're live now every Saturday 8 to 9. I'm still getting that in my head. I'm still in the old time frame, but. What time is it? Yeah, 8 o'clock comes real fast, but here we are. I don't even really remember, but I remember getting an email from you saying, hi, can I do the show with you guys? And I'm like, yes, you can.
Once a month I have a topic, and I'm
yes, you can. Okay, so it's your idea, your topic. Why did you choose this today? And first of all, we haven't even said what it is, so you tell everybody what we're talking about today.
Yeah, so we're talking today about reasons why buyers may back out of a real estate transaction, and the reason why it kind of was top of mind for me was I was kind of in the middle of a sale that kind of went wrong.
Kind of, or did go wrong. Yeah, it did. Yeah.
It was hard for them. It was definitely a heartbreak, and it was very much necessary and the right thing to do, but those things always feel really heavy at the time. And I felt like a lot of agents may or may not, really delve into the responsibility and what happens when you back out of a transaction at different points. Like there might be
repercussions.
Implications. You might lose your deposit. You might, X, Y, or Z. So it's not always just like the emotional impact of like saying, okay, that inspection was awful and I don't want to move forward, but actually knowing like words matter. So in your offer, if you're not writing things in a way that you're very explicit and direct, then that can actually get you into a lot of trouble. So I reached out to Jessica to see if she'd want to join us. And of course, she was
thank you, Kate,
thrilled to join us. And Jessica and I work a lot together, and she is fantastic, and I love working with her. So happy to have her here today.
Yeah. I know. I'm so happy that, like I said, I see you very like socially, like, and I usually have like a drink in my hand. we have these bubbly. Yeah, you guys do, but your office does too. Have really great events, and if you guys are having anything soon, I want to give you the opportunity to sort of promote that, but. So, what is the relationship here? You guys have worked together before? Like, how did it go?
Kind of funny. So I used to work very closely with an attorney out of Hingham, and I loved her. Mm-hmm. And nothing was going to break that because I truly loved her. And then I had a client that was like, I already have an attorney, and I was like, oh, that's perfectly fine. That's fine.
And if you're watching us on Facebook, we are Facebook Live. She's throwing up her hands. That's fine. Like someone's fighting with her.
So it's our obligation. If I'm working with a client and they want a recommendation, I'll give them, the 3 people I love most.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them why each of them are fantastic. And sometimes that's for very different reasons. But this person, again, she was just near and dear, and I loved her. We worked great together. We had a process. And then they're like, oh, well, here's Jessica Fennessy. And I'm like, all right.
And I had never worked together at that point.
Yeah.
I never even honestly heard of Jessica Fennessy, and I'm so glad that I did. But she sent her first email to the clients, and I was like, oh my God.
That's it.
She had my heart.
It's a match made in heaven.
An email. Like, it was just everything that they needed to know. Everything was outlined perfectly. It was very transparent, and I feel like a lot of times we'll give the recommendation to a buyer or a seller, and they don't even ask, like, what's the fee, or what is, kind of the process, or what does she need from me. They just are like, okay, yeah, like, let's do that. And a lot of times attorneys don't even respond to them with, this is the fee. And she was just so transparent about everything. I almost felt like there's so much more value to being transparent about what you charge on a fee and what your service is.
Yes.
And just kind of being upfront with them.
And I'm sorry, were you representing the buyer or the seller?
I was representing the buyer.
Okay, yeah.
So we have a great email that's sort of an expectations next steps email that our buyers find super helpful, and that's what won Kate over for me. So I think at Sherman Law, we just want our expectations set, we want our fees set, we want to know our role and how we can help.
Yeah.
And all of those being laid out in sort of a 10-point outline just helps everyone get on the same page.
Yeah.
And it won me Kate, too, so.
And sometimes you fall in love.
Yeah. Sometimes you fall in love over an email. I love that.
I love systems.
Well, and everybody who listens to our show, everybody in our office knows that I am a first-time home buyer in this market, which is not ideal. But yeah, I do. And even though I am a professional in this industry, like, I do love a really good email. I like to be outlined because for someone like me who is purchasing a home on their own, I need to know what's going on and every dollar, because, and I say this all the time on the show, I'm not depending on anybody else. I don't have anybody to turn to and be like, oh, can I borrow some money? Or like, our bill is $5,000 for this, or, I'm short this or whatever, or I have an unexpected fee. There's no one to turn to. So for somebody who is doing this, it doesn't even have to be on their own. Just if you're money conscious or whatever, you just want to sort of get ahead, you need to have all the steps laid out. This is what you're going to need for purchase and sales. This is what you're going to need day of closing. These are your closing costs, all that stuff. So I love that. I love a good email, a good email outline.
I copied Jessica. Now I have one too.
Okay, so not to go into too many details about your situation, because there might be some things that you can't sort of relay to everybody, but what are some of the reasons why are we talking about just buyers or sellers backing out? Both?
We could talk about both.
Okay. So what are some examples of why maybe a buyer would walk away from a transaction? And we can go through the whole process as well.
Yeah, so early on.
And then, sorry to cut you off. So maybe you come up with the scenario and you come up with what the repercussions are, if they really could, legal aspect of what would Jessica do?
So I would love to intro with sort of what an offer is quickly, because I think that buyers hopefully understand that when you put in a offer to purchase real estate, it's a binding contract. Mm-hmm. So the first part is, what is the contract? What are the terms? What is the dollar amount? What's the timeline? So those are sort of our 4 corners of the contract, where the offer is so important to outline that for us. Because anytime you want to get out we need to look back to that contract.
Yeah.
So that offer is so important. So any buyers, putting in an offer, make sure you're really set out with some basic, really essential terms, so that if we have to get out, when you show me your offer, I can look at it.
Yeah.
And you ask me, if Kate calls me and says, hey, how do we get out for this reason, I have to go, I need the offer first.
Yeah.
I can't just pull something out of the air. It has to be.
Well, especially right now, it's so important because, and again, from personal experience, I'm up against at least 15 other offers, like with all these houses because of my price point. So I am up against other buyers. And, sometimes you do things that you didn't think that you would. Sometimes you offer things that you don't think that you were going to offer. But you know what? When you think that you've found the one, you're like, oh, no, I want this.
Yeah, you're like, I put in
I've made that phone call to be like, if for some reason at some point this falls through, can I get my money back?
Yes. Knowing the risk.
Knowing the risk, like I am willing to put up this amount of money, but like if for some reason you can't get to the next step, can I move backwards? can I find something else?
And that's someone who does this every day.
Yeah. Because it's funny because you think that you know all these things, but then when you're in it, you're like so naive to the fact. And I talk about this all the time. Jasmine Glasgow, who is my loan officer from Maritime Mortgage, she's actually going to be on the show with me on Tuesday. I just tell the story all the time. I had no idea if I was even ready, if I was even anything. Like I was like, oh, I saved some money, I paid off some debt. Like I have a good job. Like what, And she's like, no, you are there. Like you're ready. Like you could look at a house today. Like, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
A lot.
Oh, I was like, I'm panicking. But okay, so yes, thank you very much for that. So maybe a scenario, maybe early on in the process.
Yeah, so it's funny because when Jessica and I were talking, I was like, okay, when I started 11 years ago, like your offer terms were literally like property to be delivered in broom swept condition, like all personal property to be off the property. And now it's like buyers are flexible. Buyers, have already gone through the underwriting process. All they need is title and appraisal. Like we're putting in appraisal gaps. We're dictating out what appliances are to say, and our strategy is like it's a full paragraph at like font 8 to fit it all. Mm-hmm. So it's a very different world. People are waiving inspections, so that takes a whole contingency away. So skips right to purchase and sale for people, and that's scary too because you don't know what could have happened in the inspection. But I would say the first big part of the process where people do back out is home inspection. And luckily we're kind of going and shifting into a market where people are having home inspections again, which is awesome because
I love that.
That's the buyer's right. They should be able to do that. But we are seeing it more, which makes me very happy. But with that said, sometimes you find things in those inspections that you're like, oh, that's, I can't move forward with that. Or negotiating, trying to get the sellers to, mitigate whatever that issue is.
So when you do your offers, say you're putting in an offer for a buyer, there is that paragraph where you essentially just put in a date of how you can have your inspection until then. But do you put any additional verbiage at the bottom, like, oh, for informational purposes only? Which, by the way, we hate that term. Like we hate that term because I got the information, I don't like it, I'm still gonna walk away. Who cares?
It literally means nothing because the home inspection is always for informational purposes, and then you have the opportunity and the right to make a decision based off of that. Now to say like, okay, we will move forward based on fixes up to $20,000.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And we've done that before, but I mean at the end of the day,
I would just be curious if, like, so I'm asking you, say you had the home inspection, you did, like, the $20,000 gap, and your buyers are like, oh, absolutely not. Like, something happens, even if maybe it wasn't going to come to $20,000, they still want to back out. What is, like, does anybody go to you and say, like, what's the repercussion of that? Because as a seller, I'd be like, show me the receipt. Like, show me invoices that tell you that you have $20,000 worth of work to do here.
So what normally happens is Kate will send the offer over, her buyers will then do their home inspection. I'm already in the process of working with the seller's attorney on a purchase and sale. So we're sort of waiting to hear what's going on with inspections. We'll start to move forward on the assumption the transaction's solid, but then all of a sudden I'll get news that the buyer's inspection was not satisfactory. So I'll look to the offer and see what's in there. And it could be one of a few things. It could just say, like you had said, just a date. We have a date to do our home inspection. If we're not satisfied, which is buyer satisfaction, which is very open, then we can back out, and then you get your first deposit money back. It might say something a little bit more limiting, such as informational purposes only, which doesn't limit that much, but it just basically states that the buyer will review their inspection report, but they will not present repairs to the seller. They just have the right to back out and get their money back. But even though it says that, we often still negotiate inspection repairs. It just means the seller is basically not entertaining any discussion of repairs, but often we can get past that. Then there's sort of even more limiting language where you would say, we're going to do a home inspection. We are not going to present any issues to the seller unless they have a certain value. There's two ways to do that. There's a cumulative value of, like you said, 20,000, or there's sort of a one repair value. So a roof, a furnace, like a $5,000 single item. So oftentimes, if it's a cumulative value, you have a lot of flexibility as a buyer because you can often nitpick many things to add to $20,000. But if you're limiting it to one item of substantial value, like $5,000, you would need to put forth that the roof is not safe, needs to be replaced. The cost of that is $15,000. So I think there's ways to get creative as a buyer's agent and also as a listing agent receiving those offers to see what's there and if you understand what it means so that everyone is on the same page.
It is very important for, and I'm looking at you as a buyer's agent, to get creative because your buyer is up against. So the seller can just be like, no, I'm not doing it, moving on to the next one, moving on to the next one. And that would, my heart would sink. I'd be like, no, how can we get this together, please?
We'll put an offer in, and it's like drastically over asking, and all the terms are great, and the listing agent will call them and be like, your offer is fantastic, but all of the other offers have waived contingency for inspection. And I'm just like, you know which buyers are okay doing that, and sometimes, like you said, you're on your 15th offer, and they're finally like, I'm done. Like, I'm waving my white flag, waive the inspection, I just need a house, I want to be done. But there's buyers I've worked with for a year and a half, not because I'm doing anything wrong or because they're doing anything wrong, but because they know in their hearts they want to have a home inspection. They don't feel comfortable moving forward until they get that. So it's like the wait might be longer, but you're going to feel more comfortable knowing that you actually did what you felt was right. But there is, it stinks. Some people just, they're not even going to consider it. And then there's others where it's like you have 5 offers and all of them had inspections and you're like, yes, finally.
Yes, finally. I know. Well, the thing that stinks about it is, you don't know what the other offers are. That's in putting in offers for myself, that's what's, the most nerve-wracking for me because I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, they say that they have 7 offers, but I'm, trying to, calculate, figure out what is everybody else doing. I'm so I'm just sitting there staring at my computer okay, what do I offer? And it is so nerve-wracking.
I can imagine you're doing it yourself, and obviously you have a whole office of people that you can throw spaghetti off the wall with. But you're still sitting there
and still at the end of the day it's me, and I'm all right, this is the best I can do. This is it. I'm and then I just sit there. I just hit send. I'm do I have a response yet? I just need to know. In my head, I'm oh God, I just need to know. Do I have a house? But Tim, it's 8:30. Do we have a chance to take a break?
Of course you have a chance.
We have a chance for you. It is my show. That is so true. You got that right, Tim. Don't forget that. You're listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. I am joined by Kate Fisher and Jessica Fennessy. That's like Hennessy with an F. That's what she said. And we are going to take a quick break. We're going to continue this conversation when we get back.
Let's face it, We all get to the point in our lives when our current
Melissa, if
home
you
no
could
longer
just
suits
bring
our
down
everyday
your
know,
microphone
you live
just
in
a tiny bit.
I know, I'm telling you, and we haven't even gotten through. Yeah. All right, what do you want to, what's like most important to you guys? Because we'll come back with
navigating
that.
multiple levels in your
Let's
home.
see,
Are you finding that
so
yard work is taking up
I
all
would
of your free
say
time? Do the home maintenance projects seem
detail, like,
never
the
ending?
timeline
Let
about
us help you
offer
find the right
contingencies and
size
then
for you right now.
subsequent
I'm
purchases
Sharon
of
McNamara, the
Yeah.
broker owner
Okay.
of Boston
Okay.
Connect
So
Real
we can
Estate.
talk about
If you would like a
what could be
one-on-one consultation
taken from
with
them if
me
they
and my
back out of the
team
home
or one of the
inspection,
dedicated
and also
agents
if
at
they
Boston
lose the
Connect
money
Real
for the
Estate
home
to discuss
inspection,
your real
obviously.
estate needs,
To
you
have
can
had
connect with
buyers
us
be
at
like,
bostonconnect.com
pay
or
us back up?
781-826-8000.
So I think we can outline like the money. So the first money is the first
Let's face
offer.
it,
with
we all get to the
usually
point in our
1,000
lives
to
when our
upwards of
current home no
5,000
longer
we've been
suits our
seeing
everyday
lately.
needs. With
Then you
ever-changing
sign
living
purchase and sale.
dynamics,
You do your home
addressing your
inspection,
future is all about
that
right-sizing.
money's
You
gone
know,
now.
finding the
You
right
sign
size
purchase
home
and
for you
sale.
right now.
And then
Are
it
you
would
ready to
be
pay your
your
own
second
mortgage
deposit.
rather than somebody else's?
Give another
Are you
big
looking
chunk,
forward
which
to
is
living
25%
under your own
usually,
roof?
and then
Do you often dream
when that
about
money's
buying your
ours,
first
too.
home, but you're not sure where to begin? Let us help
Yeah.
you find the right size.
So we'll come back and say, okay, so we're still talking about reasons why a buyer would back out,
If you would like a one-on-one
and the
consultation
and the
with me
repercussions for
and my
that.
team,
So
or one
let's
of the
continue
dedicated
with
agents at
offers.
Boston
So what
Connect
are some of the
Real Estate to
offer
discuss your real
contingencies
estate
that
needs?
may
You
come
can
into
connect
play
with us
when
at bostonconnect.com
sort of
or
backing out?
781-826-8000.
We now return to Talk Real Estate, sponsored by Boston Connect Real Estate Services on 95.9 WATD.
And we are back. You are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. My name is Melissa Wallace, and I'm joined today by Kate Fisher, who is a full-time realtor here at Boston Connect Real Estate, and Jessica Fennessy, who is an attorney at Sherman Law. If you want to join in on the discussion, and you not want to be on Facebook, you want to actually talk to us, somebody call us, please. 781-837-4900. Again, 781-837-4900. Team will get you right on over to us. That's the fastest way to talk to us. But we are live on Facebook, so be sure to follow us, Boston Connect Real Estate. It's not the McNamara broker team anymore because Mary got married. And so now it's the McNamara Horton Group. So we're live on that too.
Oh, fierce, I feel.
I know, McNamara Horton
It's
Group.
strong.
Yeah, McNamara Horton Group. Yeah, Mary got married. I like saying that. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just like, Mary got married. Okay, I want to continue sort of the repercussions, or I don't even know, because that gives sort of like a negative, because sometimes it's not totally negative, people are walking away, but it could be. Sort of what happens, like maybe in the offer stage, like during those contingencies, if a buyer was to walk away.
Yeah.
What happens? What's going on?
So we'll use a scenario that happened recently. We had a home under agreement, or under contract, if you will. And they did their home inspection. Everything was great for the most part. It was just like normal wear and tear. And then we went in the attic, and the attic was just
Riddled
with moisture. They didn't have any of the bathroom fan, like no bathroom fans. So the moisture was just going up into the attic and having a heyday. And they said it looked like about 20 years of residual buildup, right? And I was kind of like, honestly, mine looks like this right now too, because it was the same style as my house. So mine is the same situation. I'm kind of like, as a homeowner, we need to do that, but we haven't actually done it.
Yeah.
So then we went into the basement, and it was kind of the same scenario. So the inspector that we had that day, he had this cool little flashlight that you shine on these areas, and it literally shows you the mold.
Yeah.
So the whole basement was also covered in mold. These guys also wanted to finish the basement, so it was really important to them that they had a radon test. We did that. It came back at, I think this one was like 9.
Yeah, high.
So the not acceptable amount, I guess you could say, of radon is 4. You want a number below 4. If you have anything over 4, it's suggested that you put in a radon mitigation system.
And radon is a disclosable item. So if you were to walk away, now the seller needs to disclose to any other buyer that comes through that there's radon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should.
Oh, you're smiling and you're saying it that way. I'm assuming that they didn't.
They should. and yeah, you're right. So we had...
That's a story for another day,
That's a story for another day. I mean, if we could just talk for like we could talk multiple shows about the things people should do. So I had, the gentleman come out to look at the attic and see the situation there, look at the basement, see the situation there, and he was like, Kate, all of this paneling needs to come out. All of the insulation up here needs to come out. They had like this cedar closet that wasn't really cedar. It was just actually like a flappy type of plywood. So that was all filled also because it just was collecting moisture. Yeah. So all in all, this was about like $12,000 in like things that needed to be mitigated. Mm-hmm. And they're not like small things. They're like actually like health hazards. Yeah,
it's health I mean, I feel like, so again, I'll go to you, say she had like the $20,000 gap, but the mitigation came to, 12,000, whatever, but because it's a health hazard, do they still sort of have a way to get out, even though
I mean, depending on the language in the offer, if there's like health and safety or a cap on, or a requirement of money to be met, I do think you could easily come up with that amount for that situation. I mean, that was a little more drastic than most.
Yeah.
That's what we thought, but the sellers literally were like, no.
They said no?
They said no.
They said no to what? Doing the repairs or
do any of those repairs. Mm-hmm. I think they offered like $5,000, somewhere around there.
So we have a couple of approaches. If the buyer wants to stay in the contract and just wants either to pay less for the house, seller to remediate the issues, or essentially offer money to the problem. So throw money at the problem. They can offer a closing cost credit. Mm-hmm. If the buyer's like, listen, I don't want to take it as it is unless something happens. Like, unless I have more money, less money on the purchase price or a fix, I'll move forward. You can go to the seller and present those options. Yeah. The seller was really resistant on that and offered a very small amount as in exchange for keeping the deal together.
Yeah, and like you guys were talking about earlier, like knowing what's $20,000 in repairs. Like my husband is a contractor. I got the mold guy out there in a day and a half because of the relationship he has with Boston Connect.
Oh, was it Jake?
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you want to get a contractor in your inspection period, it's not probably going to happen. Like your uncle's sister's brother who's doing someone a favor. But like, it is not in the norm that a contractor, I mean, they have their week planned out. They have their next month planned out. Yeah. So you're not going to get generally someone in to give you a quote on these repairs in that inspection time frame. One, because we have to make it as tight as possible so that they accept our offer, knowing that we're going to get everything done super quick and we'll be to P&S in a time that makes them feel comfortable. So if we we were in 1995 and we have a 2-week inspection period, great, but we don't live in a world where we can do those things right now. So it's like you almost, and I don't feel comfortable at least, putting a dollar amount on those things for that reason. Like, I know that trying to get all those people in is just... it's not realistic at this point. So it's like just saying we're having an inspection and then we're going to decide from there how we want to move forward makes me feel most comfortable because I know what the impact is of trying to rally all those people together. It just can't happen sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it helps that Jake has been on our show a few times, and he does work very closely with our agents, so that's good.
So awesome. He was there literally in a day. And I'll also say Store Trade On, I don't know how to actually say it. They were awesome. Like, they had a quote within like 3 hours, which is fantastic. And obviously this deal didn't move forward, but same thing, I had one recently. I was the list agent, and he quote in 3 hours and was out within 2 days putting in the radon system. So like all these contractors that you work with, that like you build these relationships, it's just awesome to have because they like really get things done immediately.
And you do need that sort of ammunition sometimes in writing to get your buyer out. So I think having agents at Boston Connect with these resources is huge because if I need something in writing to show a dollar amount for a repair to get us out of contract, you need something in writing. It's not just, my brother's cousin said it's going to be this much.
Yeah, exactly.
My dad said,
oh yeah, I know. Yeah, as a listing agent, like, do you want to hear that? Like, oh, the buyer's dad said that like it was cost this. I'd be like, oh, well, I could go to anybody's house and be like, that's $1 million repair. That's how but I'm just being stubborn.
It's a good memes, the dad memes.
Yeah, the dad memes. Yeah, all the home inspection memes that are out there. Because we do a newsletter here every Friday, and Julia does the newsletter, and she puts in a real estate meme at the bottom. I used to do it, and agents used to say, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I just scroll to the bottom to see what meme you put in, and I'm like, no, there's other information in there that you should be reading. But yeah, a lot of them are you pull up to the home inspection, and there comes 6 cars, and it's like, oh, your father, your uncle, your grandpa, and you're just like,
all these people telling you how it's going to fall down.
Well done. Yeah. Okay, offer. Do we want to say anything else with offers, or do we want to move forward in the process?
So these guys decided not to move forward. So the amount that they negotiated was $5,000, and they basically were like, we're not comfortable with this.
Yeah.
If these are the situations and they're not okay with like the safety of our family, then we're good. At the end of the day, they were kind of like, well, if they're not okay with these actual like safety things, what else is happening here that we might not be doing? So they just didn't feel right about it. So unfortunately, I called Jessica and I was like, they don't want to move forward. What do we do? And honestly, I've never had a situation where they haven't given back like the earnest money that you submit with the offer. So like I said that to Jessica, that's never happened to me. So it's like,
so they were refusing to give.
Initially did not want to. So when you put your offer in, you have to tender consideration or money. It's customarily $1,000 as much as $5,000 now, because it can make you look more desirable the more you put down. So that first $1,000 is always essentially at risk for the buyer. If they back out and don't proceed unless they have some justification for terminating. So we were trying to use our inspection contingency for our justification. So they were arguing a bit. I mean, it was attorney back and forth with myself and the other, the seller's attorney. I mean, we ultimately prevailed, but it was definitely a little bit of an uphill.
Yeah, you prevailed.
We try. I usually use the language, which is why I mentioned that earlier, is just whatever's there is really what I have to, that's what you've given me for.
Do you feel like it's like black and white?
No, I do not.
Shades of gray.
Lots of gray.
Yeah.
Lots of gray. And honestly, luckily for me, I only do real estate law, so I am very familiar with most of the other attorneys in the area that also
that's so important.
Interact often, daily. I mean, I might have 3 deals with the same attorney in the same day, like going back and forth on different transactions. So we have sort of, we have consideration for each other, and we know sort of what the other's argument is likely to be. I can always see things from both sides, so when I present my argument for my client, I do know what the other person is likely going to say back. So I try to think of that when I'm coming in, and I try to give as much as I can for my side. And there are tricks. There are tricks to doing it. So and there's other reasons, not just inspections, but I've had one with financing just recently fall apart in between offer and purchase and sale.
Oh, wow.
Which doesn't happen often, but
that's interesting, between offer and purchase and sale. And without going into full detail, give an example of how how.
So it was a buyer, and they put an offer in with a pre-approval from a local lender, and it looked solid on its face. And when we were doing purchase and sale, we were going back and forth about sale of home contingency for the buyer, which meant they had to sell a home to buy this home. So we were sort of reinforcing those terms to be like, what does that mean? What is the flexibility they have to close? And when we ran their numbers with another lender, because they were rate shopping, because that's happening a lot right now with buyers. So in the rate shopping they were doing, they ran another pre-approval, and that lender red flagged several things for them. They were self-employed, which can be difficult. So that lender sort of highlighted some concerns, so then we all got on the phone to talk about it, and they were not going to ever be qualified to proceed. So I'm just happy we found it out then, later, because
10 days before.
Exactly. I mean, nobody wants that to happen. So basically, at that point, the buyers were devastated. They had no idea that was going to happen. So what they were out was their inspection. They had no home inspection. They were out that money. But I was able to terminate the offer based upon the inability to obtain financing, which doesn't normally happen that early, but it's a situation. And I got their denial letter, and we got their $1,000 back. So, you can do that. It does happen. That's why picking a lender is so important, and making sure you're sort of scrutinizing what's on the pre-approval.
And again, just from a buyer's perspective, like every house that I've put in an offer in it, I've had to go to Jasmine and be like, hey, can I do this? Because the rate is so flexible. Because like now I'm looking higher and higher, and I'm offering more, and I'm putting more down. I'm like, every offer I've put in has been different from the last. So I have to go to her and be like, can I do this? Like,
your taxes are substantially different.
yeah, taxes are different. Yeah, you just never know. And I mean, I've been at this a year now. I mean, I did have something under agreement. Thankfully, I did have a home inspection and I walked away, but that was last December. And to think about how much I had that house under agreement for, and now I'm offering considerably more for something else very similar now. And I'm just like, yeah, I think maybe December is, yeah, Christmas in my new house. You know, it really is so important. I always say this, always keep in contact with your loan officer. Always even check in with your attorney. Like, I'm sure it's not a bothersome to be like, hey, just making sure that, like, we're all groovy, like, we're all on the same page.
I get a lot of phone calls over the weekend or text messages from realtors asking for offer tips. Like, about to submit an offer, it has to be in on Sunday. And, yes, your attorney texts you. Well, your attorney should text you, and if they don't, maybe you have to think about
maybe you should, and that should be Jessica.
And everyone at Sherman Law, we pride ourselves on our availability and our responsiveness. So having the ability to text us over the weekend and say, hey, I'm thinking about adding an appraisal gap. My lender told me this. How do I word that correctly? Not to scare the seller, and also make me look strong as a buyer, and also protect me if something comes up. Yeah. So that's key to know.
Yeah, super important. I mean, and it's always funny because when Amy is on the show, we'll say something and she always goes, well, it depends. And I'm like, yeah, so shades of gray, not black and white. So
it's the legal system.
Yeah, so I feel like you guys are really good at coming up with the verbiage to be like, no, we can go ahead with the shades of gray with this.
So you can go in either direction. You can go too vague, which doesn't give me strong enough argument, or you can go too specific where I'm very limited in my argument. So
like this is how it is. Yeah, fine balance. And you guys got to come together and figure that out.
It's important to have those relationships and ask the questions, because now you kind of have that in your toolbox for like forever. Like I have a list of all of the offer terms I've ever used and how I phrase them, because I don't want to bother next Saturday with the same question. Yeah. But it's like, you know what's going to work, you know, and again, not to scare the list agent, but to be strong and to kind of, you know, you're the person that's there to advocate for your buyer, and we have to actually be fiduciaries and do that.
Yeah.
We have to.
I know, and it's funny. It's not funny because it's not funny, but I'll just say it's funny. I do the finances here at Boston Connect Real Estate, and I'm in charge of if for some reason something does fall apart and I have to disperse money.
Money.
Yeah, I always ask the question, like, what happened? Like, because if we're holding escrow, it's usually our listing, and I'll ask, like, what happened? The buyer's walking away, the seller, something happened, whatever. So I always like to get sort of the backstory, because I know Sharon's going to ask me, so I have that, because she'll be like, oh, why'd that come back on the market? I can be like, well, but it's always interesting to hear the different scenarios that you guys are going through, because again, I'm sitting in my office, I'm here all day, but you guys are like pounding the pavement, making sure that, you're in the trenches out there, unless I'm out there in the trenches for myself, which is exhausting.
I mean, you mentioned Amy's responsibility too is the shades of gray. I mean, it's a negotiation always, at all stages. Yeah. So, when you're trying to back out of an offer or a purchase and sale and there's money on the line, if you have a solid justification for getting out, that's great. Yeah. But the other side does have to agree to that. So if their attorney is fighting me strong on something, we sometimes have to compromise. It really depends how gray it is and how clear it is. If you have a solid denial within your timeline and you can back out, you get your money back. If you don't, and you're asking for some input, you might have to negotiate. You can offer to sort of split the deposit. Yeah. You can offer to...
I've seen that too, yeah.
I've seen that, or often I've had buyers successfully back out of a purchase and sale, which is that second stage, and they've offered to pay the seller's attorney's fees. So they've given that attorney their fee so that the seller can now enter a new contract with a new buyer without any excess attorney fees. So we get creative with it to make sure everyone leaves feeling somewhat whole, because it's a negotiation at all stages.
Yeah. And it's so important for you, Kate, to have those conversations with either the loan officer or the attorney to make sure that you're not offering anything in your offer that they're not capable of following through with. Sorry to put it on you guys, but ask those questions. Continue to ask those questions, because at the end of the day, if for some reason something gets a little messed up, it might come back on you.
Oh, 100%. And there's we're talking about relationships, we're talking about reaching out to people, and just as if they don't text you back on a Saturday, it's a problem. She's not wrong. Whether it's the lender or the attorney, we're all a team, and unfortunately, real estate isn't 9 to 5.
Yeah.
It's just not. So it's the lenders and the attorneys, the way I see it is, there's great banks that are, in the sky, if you will, and they're internet-based banks.
Yeah.
We're never going to know what that person's face looks like. It's I want to put a face with a name. I want to work with local people that I can see and build relationships with, and I know my client can go talk to them at their office if they want to, and cause there are people that work in all different ways. They're comfortable with e-signature, or they want to sit in a room and actually talk about things.
Yeah.
So it's so important to have those local relationships where there's a name with a face.
Yeah. And so important to work in teams. I mean, it's so important to have your team. You have your loan officers that you typically go to, your attorneys that you typically go to, all of your vendors. So it's important to always say, I have a team behind me. We're working together, but our goal is to make sure that everything stays together and everybody's happy. We have less than 10 minutes, so about 8 minutes left. So I know. I told you. So fast. I told you it goes pretty fast. So we usually get a couple shows out of these things. So you guys will have to come back and continue. But and just a little tidbit. You said something about not hearing back from people. I always say that silence is deafening. If you're not hearing from somebody and you're continuing to reach out, there's something wrong on the other end. They're trying to figure something out, or they're trying to back out. And I always I'm okay, what are some of the scenarios and the reason why, what could happen, and so you got to be prepared for everything, unfortunately. Okay, so we do only have a couple minutes, and I want to give you guys an opportunity at the end of the show to give your contact information out again, but what are some of the final thoughts, wrapping up, what are some of the things that we didn't get a chance to talk about, but you definitely want to talk about today?
I think the other really big one, and the one that happens most often, is your appraisal contingency. Mm-hmm. So let's just say we offer $700 for a home, and the appraisal comes in at $680. Mm-hmm. What happens? What happens then? Yeah. Right? So I always say, well, there's a couple things that could happen. One, you go in at that $680, and that's the new purchase price, and seller and buyer have to agree with that. Mm-hmm. 2, you negotiate somewhere in the middle, or 3, the seller says, well, I'm not doing that, so we'll go back to market and I'll find someone with more cash. And one of the ways that we kind of alter that or make a stronger offer is to have an appraisal gap where we say we're willing to put up to $20,000 to secure the loan for the buyer. Mm-hmm. So that's saying if it did come in at that $680 appraisal, that will now cover $700, and they're actually putting that $20,000 of their own cash up front. It's not bank money. The bank is only going to lend you $680, what they think the home is worth and what they're willing to risk. But if you want to keep it at that $700 price point, you're putting that $20,000 in cash out of your own pocket. Mm-hmm. People really need to understand that. That's where it's coming from. It's coming from your bank account. So on top of the 5% you might have put down in earnest money and the 1 to 2% in closing costs, you now have to have another $20,000 or however much you put forth for the appraisal gap. But it does make the offer stronger if they have the ability to do that, because the seller's okay, well, these other offers didn't have the ability to do that. So these people have cash. I know that they can at least meet me up to the $20,000, or we can negotiate more. Having a larger amount of earnest money or down payment, they know you have money. Yeah.
I do enjoy the appraisal gap limiting language. So if you're going to have, I hate when it's too open-ended, because I have a lot of that recently where buyer will cover appraisal gap, and then there's a blank, and I cringe. Yeah. I was like, what does that mean? And then when you had said that too, it's about reaching out to the lender, and which is what I will do for my buyers, to say, hey, I just got the offer. It's really vague on this appraisal language. Yeah. Exactly. What can we do here, and how strongly do I have to fight to get a cap in there? Yeah. And the lender will say, I didn't agree to, I didn't say that. Yeah. Let's just run the numbers. So then they get on the phone again. Again, the transaction team, we all have our lanes, but our lanes overlap. Yeah. And we all have to, if we see something, we have to say something. So when I see that, I immediately call the loan officer and I'm like, let's run the numbers. And if they tell me, hey, we're maxed out at $15,000 for a cap, I then, as the buyer's attorney, have to go to the seller side and say, listen, we're at the offer stage. I'm going to be transparent. all we have is $15,000.
Yeah.
So I need a gap coverage for that amount, and that's it. And if that's a problem, we need to deal with it now.
Yeah.
We don't want to get to closing and later on find out, like, we're losing more money.
Yeah, I mean, I recently put in an offer on a property, and I went significantly over asking. Yeah, I wanted the house, and I was like, all right, well, this is where I feel the value is. First, it was in for a couple hours. The first phone call I got was from the listing agent. They were concerned that it wouldn't appraise, so the first question she asked me was, what happens if it doesn't appraise? Are you willing to bridge the gap? And I said, well, are your sellers asking me to bridge the gap, or are you and she's like, yeah, they won't, like, this is the price that they want, and if you can come up with, like, I'll use numbers for an example, like, say I went in at 400, but they came, like, it appraised for 380, are you going to come up with $20,000 cash? So we're negotiating a little bit, but again, I told my loan officer called the listing agent and said, hey, this is a really great offer, this is what she can do, essentially take it or leave it. Didn't get it.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, because they got 16 offers, so whatever.
It's important to know what you want, and also what you qualify for.
Yeah.
So it's hard to take, but that's what was the right fit at the time.
Yeah, and it's just so important to have those like, again, your lanes sort of overlap, but you have the professional courtesy, and you have great relationships with the people that you work with all the time, because you have to. I mean, your lanes are overlapping. You're working with a lot of the same people a lot. Something that we've mentioned before in the show is during COVID we saw a lot of new agents and a lot of new attorneys and a lot of and we thought that they would trickle
into real estate.
Yeah, jumping into the real estate world, really. And I love that you said that you do real estate attorney, like you're a real estate attorney full time, like you don't do any because there are some attorneys that don't do, like, they just dabble a little bit in this and that.
That could be a whole show too.
Yeah, that could be a whole show too. And we only have 2 minutes. Well, we only have 2 minutes. I want to give you guys an opportunity to give your contact information out. And thank you guys so much for coming on it. Well, I mean, we could do 8 shows on this, and we might have to.
Literally.
But yeah, literally. Kate, why don't you sort of wrap it up for you?
Sure. So again, I'm Kate Fisher. I'm a full-time agent here at Boston Connect Real Estate in the heart of Pembroke. And you can contact me at 781-820-8932. Again, that's 781-820-8932. I am generally here in the office Monday through Thursday. So if you want to stop by and talk about anything home buying or selling, I am happy to have those conversations with you. And again, I'll be at Shaw's and Hanson today from 10 to 2, collecting for the Hanson Food Pantry. I have 2 minutes. They will also be doing a blood drive here on Friday from 9 to 3 if you're interested in donating.
And Jessica, your contact information?
Sure. So Jessica Fennessy, Sherman Law. Best number for me is 781-706-2431. That's 781-706-2431.
Thank you guys so much. You can go to bostonconnect.com, find all of our contact information. You can go to Talk Real Estate Roundtable to listen to this show again. It'll be on Monday. It'll be on Monday. Or you can go to your podcast app, Talk Real Estate Roundtable. Listen to, what day is it? Someone please help me. I need help. But thank you guys so much. And you guys have to come back on. I really appreciate it. And this was such a great show. And thanks, Tim. Enjoy the rest of your day, Tim.
Thank you. You too, ladies.
Bye, everyone.
Every day for a beauty, would you be mine?
I love this song.
Could you be mine? I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you.
So is Tim on all day?
I've always wanted to